On today's show, the Cavs have a real win streak, and they're making some progress. What a time. We'll talk all about that on a new Locked On Cavs for Saturday, November 18th.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for your first deposit match up to $100. I am Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. Thanks again to Jake Stevens as always. And we're here to talk about Cavs Pistons. Cleveland wins 108-100. 1-1 now in NBA Cup group play. No Donovan Mitchell in this one. Evan, what's your big takeaway from Cavs Pistons?
Cavs fans may complain about JV Bickerstaff, but they should be counting their blessings that they don't have Monty Williams coaching this team. Talking to friend of the program, Jordan Christmas, about this during the game, I was mad for Jaden Ivey and Asor Thompson, who was only played 2 minutes in the second half. But in the grand scheme of things, I would say no Mitchell, no problem in this game. I think the expectation, at least, is when you're playing a team that has won 2 games on the year so far, only 1 on the road, you should be able to take care of business even without arguably your best player, and I think it certainly showed. I think they had 6, maybe 7 players scoring double digits. 6 players scoring double digits, and then George Niang and was not too far behind in terms of just contributions. I think the Cavs just got a lot of high energy contributions from the guys who did play meaningful minutes in this one. And there were moments the Pistons made it close, but it never really felt like it was out of hand for Cleveland in this one. That's the kind of win you need, especially when we talk about how it felt like they were turning a corner after those wins against Golden State, and they turned a corner right into a wall. Well, they had a pretty strong win against Portland, and it seemed like there was a little bit of positive momentum there. And there was some good things to go with some of the bad, but mostly in this game that the Cavs can definitely build off of heading into Sunday's tilt against Denver.
Yeah, and I think as far as group play goes, as far as much you want to care about this, Cleveland now has at least a little bit of a shot here. I think that's the other part of this is their chances of winning it are they're not behind. They're not in a great position, right? So they're third round. They're 1-1. Indy's still 2-0. The 76ers are 2-1. And Cleveland's next game, I believe, in group play is against Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Their point differential is lagging behind those 2 teams ahead of them right now. They have to play Atlanta still as well. The Pistons are out of it. Cavs and Hawks are 1-1. Cleveland has to win their last 2 games within the group here if they're going to make a push here. The way they lost Indiana, I think, definitely hurt them in their chances of making any kind of run here within Group A. So as far as that goes, they have at least a shot. But I think, Evan, as far as the win itself, I think everything you said is correct. Like, you don't have Mitchell. And we'll talk about the offense, and I have a stat that caught my eye that I think explains some of the weirdness of this game. But they kind of just did enough and pushed back against some Pistons runs and held control of this game. Darius Garland, I think, as a scorer, deserves a lot of credit for that and getting to the line and finding his spots. Because this wasn't a game that we've seen so far this year, right? Where like Karis LeVert was really efficient and did his job. Karis LeVert was 4 of 14 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3, only had 10 points in this game. This was Garland. This was Jared Allen in some spots. This was Max Strus again, who's been awesome this year. This was Evan Mobley having a really efficient 8 of 12 night and going and having 10 boards and having 5 assists. This was a pretty overall team win to just do enough, get through the night, get to 500 at 6-6, get 2 wins in a row, and all the things we said on Friday's show, all the things that you could look at this team and say, I'm a little worried about X, Y, or Z, or whatever it is. They're 6-6. You would think they're going to get healthier, improve a little bit. They're probably going to be fine, even if this opening stretch of the season hasn't been optimal. Well, that's what winning a game like this, I think, gives you a chance to be.
I agree with you, and I think more encouraging for me, at least, you saw this offense adapt a little bit to how the Pistons were playing them. Like the Cavs were certainly more trigger happy from three, a little sloppy and careless with the ball. Just open up in the first quarter. And then I think a lot of it was personnel based. I know Max Strus was on the floor at the time, but like when Craig Porter Jr. checked in, I'm not saying like, I mean, I'll tip my hand here a little bit. He's my player of the night, but like when he checked in, a lot of it was personnel based, where the Cavs just started applying a lot of pressure at the rim, and you noted it. Like it had a little bit of a trickle down effect where the Cavs just started playing downhill and found a way to just keep applying pressure to the Pistons at the rim. It got them a lot of free throw opportunities, 21 overall, 15 of 21 from the free throw line. As you noted, Garland was super aggressive, and this one the leading free throw obtainer for Cleveland in this game. And I think just seeing that shift, and also like that kind of having like a bit of an inverse effect on the 3-point shooting output. Like they were hitting a super efficient clip at one point, but they ended up hitting about 43% to finish the game in this one. And like, whereas the Pistons hit 25% on almost 40 attempts, like, yeah, the Cavs kind of just played how the Pistons were playing them, and they took it to their advantage, just provided constant pressure on Detroit, and, you know, just really stayed at home because the Pistons aren't a good 3-point shooting team. And it was very much a recipe for success on either end of the floor. But like offensively, you saw them adapt to who they had available, and also just like how the Pistons are playing them. And I think we were talking about how things felt a little off in terms of the eye test. This is one of those nights where you're like, okay, the eye test is really backing up some of these numbers the Cavs are putting up in like the first 2 frames, 3 frames, and then eventually the closing moments before the quartet of Thompson, Merrill, Jones, and Bates check in. That like really just kind of exemplify like the Cavs are feeling themselves out a little bit. We can talk about this in the third segment, but like JP Bickerstaff admitted pregame that like he is kind of like an advocate of, okay, 20 games in, I start to evaluate like what is and isn't working, and maybe start making actual adjustments. So this is maybe one of those games where the Cavs can say like, yeah, this is something that works for us, and it is another example of them playing downhill that worked for them.
Segment 3 is going to be a lot of Craig Porter Jr. talking. You have him as your MVP. Well, so there's going to be a lot of that coming. He was one of the bright spots, I think, of this game. That's undeniable. But we're going to talk about him as we go. I mean, let's talk about Mobley for a second. I still think there are moments in this game where you see him struggling to process what exactly to do quickly in the short roll and in that space in the middle. But I like, he had a turnover in this game where he was trying to hit Jared Allen for a lob. I like that he threw that pass. I like that he was confident late in this game to get just a drive where no one marked him, but he just took advantage and went for it. I thought this was another pretty solid, assertive Evan Mobley offensive game. It's not the biggest feasting of everything, right? It's not the biggest like monster performance as a scorer, but this is the template, I think, for more of what you'd want to see in terms of his passing. He has the 5 assists. And he had the 18 points. Like this was like a more than enough for Mobley if this is the way he's going to play.
Yeah, and to your point, like Mobley having the ball in his hands more, he was falling out of bounds, and it quite literally resulted in one of the best plays of the season so far, the best play of the night in my eyes, in that Max Strus poster where like Mobley just kind of lost control of the ball, was falling out of bounds. It just kicked the ball right back up to the top of Strus, who had more than enough room to kind of get a full head of steam downhill and ruin Asar Thompson's night, and having SB Nation's Kofi even say like, let's just send the rest of the season at this point. Man, the Pistons are down bad. My thoughts with them, but yeah, it's stuff like that. You're like, okay, and there's even like an instance where like Mobley brought the ball up towards the end of the game before he subbed out, where he brought it up to the top of the perimeter, saw that Detroit like was not going to he had like a pretty wide open lane to get to the basket. He just picked up, dribbled straight to the basket and had a really clean dunk and just went right back on defense. Like, yeah, I think allowing him to kind of practice some of his playmaking, some of his ball handling in live game reps that aren't against the same teammates is helpful. And if you can get those opportunities to kind of practice those things against another team, or even if it's a bad team like Detroit, it certainly helps a lot.
Coming up after this, we're going to get into game awards. That's MVP, stat of the night, and play of the night. So we'll do that right up after this. Today's episode is brought to you by today's title sponsor, and that is our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you versus the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, use picks more or less than two to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Basketball season is here, obviously, and you cannot pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League. It's a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports leagues. For instance, you could go LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. PrizePicks also offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use our code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, that is daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, game awards. Evan, I'm going to go Darius Garland because 28 points, no Donovan Mitchell. Cleveland just needed someone to take on the scoring role. He did it at all 3 levels, particularly on a night where Karis LeVert was not at his best. He handled a lot of it. It wasn't a great Garland assist to turnover game once again, committing some kind of un-Darius Garland-like turnovers in spots, but 28, hit some pull-up threes, got to the free throw line. They needed a Garland game like this to beat Detroit.
So I talked about this a bit when Garland was out, or maybe just in those games where neither Garland or Mitchell can get it going. But this was a game at least where the Cavs had their second best player step up to the plate and shoulder the load scoring wise. Like you said, not a great night tonight, assist to turnover wise. But I think if you're the Cavs, you're willing to address it with whether it's film review or internally and just kind of make it a focus. But obviously you swallow that bitter pill tonight because it helps you get a win. Because I noted this right away. Yes, it's the Pistons. Yes, they're one of the worst teams along with the Wizards in basketball currently, but the Cavs just flow a lot differently on offense because I noticed early in the game, there's a lot of movement, a lot of off-ball cuts. I think Garland's able to kind of just get the ball in certain spots that maybe guys like Mitchell or LeVert or even Strus can't. And that's no discredit to those guys. It's just Garland is the best at that respective skill on the Cavs roster overall. So I just think you want him to be aggressive, the ball in his hands. He's going to have way more shot opportunities because Donovan Mitchell's not on the floor. Of course, he's going to try and get everyone else involved, but I think this is just a game where you're okay, Darius, we need you to score a lot more than maybe the 15 to 18 points per game you've been putting up before this point. And he certainly delivered. So this is a great MVP pick. Other than my pick, which is Craig Porter Jr., this is the most logical pick in my eyes.
Let's give me some thoughts on Craig Porter Jr. I have a bigger discussion we're going to have on him in segment 3, but in this game, what stood out to you?
He very much, I joke saying he's not quite equipped to be the backup point guard for the Cavs permanently, but he's had a pretty solid stretch of games just with the Cavs dealing with so many injuries and getting his number called on that he may be one of those dudes that just never really ends up suiting up for the charge because he is just better utilized with the Cavs because of the injuries they're dealing with or how the rotations are kind of finicky and picky. But Porter definitely plays within himself. I think he scored in bunches right away. I think my favorite play, my original play the night before the Max Strus dunk that everyone knows about was Porter drove to the basket, had a behind the back 360 dribble move where the defense collapsed on him, and then he kicked it right back out to George Niang, who just then hit a wide open 3-pointer. And that's kind of what you need in terms of just playing with that downhill pressure that I talked about that the Cavs played with all game. And you get it with Garland a lot, of course, and then you get it more with Porter. It's good to have that continuity and just a guy who is competent enough to make the plays and also comfortable enough to make the plays. And he just played well in this game. I think he was a bit of a spark for them off the bench and certainly kind of started setting the momentum for them in the first quarter after the Cavs kind of looked a little topsy-turvy and a little erratic to open the game.
Yeah, he is of the two-way guys, the one that is kind of, I think, proven to be most useful in the short term, but we'll talk about that again coming up later.
You want to know something that's always just weird? Darius Garland are actually the same age. So like
it's really screwy. It is really
screwy to think because he's a rookie and Darius is in his fourth or fifth year.
Yeah. Darius has already signed his second NBA contract, and Craig Porter Jr. is on his first NBA contract.
Yeah. And so like, because he was asked about that once post game, because Craig came to the podium after having another pretty good night for Cleveland. He's like, "Oh, does Darius ever tell you anything?" He's like, "Well," or is like Darius a bit of a mentor? He's like, "Well, Darius and I are actually the same age." So, but like, yeah, there's stuff he can teach me just because he's been doing this for a lot longer. But I don't know. I think the Cavs may have found a bit of a diamond in the rough. Like, I'm not saying like Matthew Dellavedova, like that same arc, but like an undrafted point guard that played 4 solid years in college and can give you more of the same within 20, 25 minutes tops at the peak of his career. Like, ideally, if that's what you get out of Craig Porter Jr. for the Cavs, like, yeah, 2 thumbs up, because you finally answer the need for a young backup point guard behind Darius Garland.
All right, my stat of the night. Weird 3-point discrepancy in this game. Both teams made 9. Pistons took 35. The Cavs took 21. Lowest of the total, lowest Cavs 3-point total before this night was 26. Down to 21 in this game. I think you could explain some of that by just Mitchell being out. He's obviously got one of the highest 3-point rates on the team. Takes a ton of threes, takes a ton of shots in general. It was just noticeable like that they took 21, and that if the Pistons, who don't shoot the 3 that well and have some spacing issues, particularly with some injuries, they make a couple more of these, it's a slightly different game. And I look at that and just say, okay, is this a one-off Mitchell thing? Is this a contraction some way? I tend to think it's just a Mitchell thing, but for this one night, it was weird to see the Cavs be in that situation as far as 3 goes. Evan, what's your stat?
Well, first off, I was listening despite my phone making an outburst. That is an interesting stat, just to like kind of crystallize that this wasn't a normal game by any stretch for the Cleveland. And it's just like, I don't know. The Cavs kind of found what was working for them. They obviously weren't gun shy from 3-point range, but like they still were, much more efficient than Detroit was in terms of shooting wise. But like they just found ways that worked for them. But my stat of the night is it's just simple. This is the first 2-game winning streak on the season. I literally wrote in the notes simple as like, it's weird to think like in the month of November, every time the Cavs won a game, they immediately lost one, and now they kind of exercise that demon a little bit. I'm curious to see if it goes to 3 against Denver on Sunday. I think that's definitely going to be like a gut check to like kind of maybe give you some full spectrum analysis of like where the Cavs are at compared to the defending NBA champs. But again, it's also too early in the season to give that full evaluation. But either way, like it's just, I guess, encouraging to see the Cavs kind of keep building positive momentum instead of having a good game where a lot of stuff worked and there's some stuff that needs to be ironed out, and then you watch everything kind of fall apart by the wayside the following game.
All right, play of the night. We have the same one. It's the only one. Max Strus catching a body for the second game in a row.
So some people may be surprised by this, but go look up his dunk he had with DePaul. I forget who they were playing, but like
yeah,
it was
pretty good.
It's a nasty poster. But like I know it's a cliche. People joke about these a lot, but like when it comes to white guys, but Strus really is like sneaky athletic, like really can have some hops and some emphasis to it. And I like looking at the photos from all the angles. Like I love the under the basket shot where like everyone from the Cavs is just like staring, and then like Jared Allen's like sitting there confused on the bench waiting to check, or like on the at the stanchion waiting to check in, or like the shot Jimmy Longo got like with Thompson trying his best to defend it, but like, whew, man, that was kind of like a tone setter. And I was talking about this too leading to the game, but it felt similar to like when Donovan Mitchell had that massive nasty dunk on Yuta Watanabe in Brooklyn. And then the Cavs kind of lost momentum for a bit and had to claw and scrap into it. Whereas this dunk for Strus like really put the nail in the coffin for the first half. Detroit put up a fight in the third quarter, but like really did set the tone to like, okay, this Cavs team is going to like dare Detroit to either foul them or they're going to get bullied like this by their starting shooting guard, no less.
All right, coming up after this, Craig Porter Jr. talk. Is it time to just let him have the backup point guard role for a stretch of time? We'll talk about that up next. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. We spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts and who sits. I'm thankful for the connection we have. And today I want our chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. You realize what that means? You're being on extended travel, bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis, Viagra, or Ravato prescription. And this is possible because of our friends at Jase Medical. Go online right now at jasemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jase, quote, "I'm thankful for the service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut my pills in half to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone," end quote. If you or someone you love would like to get peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily med, go to jasemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember, use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. All right, Craig Porter Jr., Evan, on a 2-way deal, so we have to remember that he is capped out at the maximum number of days he can spend with the team. I also think it's just fundamentally true.
Is he capped out?
I think there is a cap. I'm pretty sure
there is. I just didn't know if he was like he hit it already. I'm like, sheesh.
No. He's got a ways to go, but like he can't be like an every game guy unless you convert his contract. Is the point? If it was like 3 games, that would be like an insane cap. That wouldn't make any sense. He also probably would not be playing. I think not even probably would not be playing if the Cavs were fully healthy. That said, I think while you're dealing with these injuries, while Ty Jerome is out, while Isaac Okoro is still on the sidelines, while Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are both dealing with some knocks here and there, and maybe they're going to miss some time here or there, and you don't have Ricky Rubio, and you don't really have the flexibility to go out and get someone else, and for cap reasons and for trade reasons, maybe it's time just to give him 15 to 20 minutes. I think based on the way he played, the composure, the shot making, just some of the moves he made in this game, I don't hate just giving him 15 to 20 minutes and giving him the backup point guard role. For like 2 weeks. For 2 weeks. Like, what's the harm for 2 weeks? You know? Like,
no,
what are you gonna do?
I agree with you. And I was thinking about the backup point guard position. And like you look at Detroit, and I know Monty Morris has a quadricep injury right now. And like, if he's healthy, maybe that's a dude the Cavs could make a stab at, just because it's a 1-year contract worth $8.7 million, and it's been reported that the Bulls are asking for 2 first-round picks for Alex Caruso. So let's just say goodbye to that dream. Like, I'm waving to the camera right now to say goodbye to the Caruso coming to Cleveland. If the asking price is, again, 2 first-round picks for a 29-year-old.
Well,
so
can it just on that note though, that guy would be worth it for the right team to do that. He would be like, if it's 2 bad first round picks, if it's like a top 20 protected first and a late first for $9 million
to the return the Blazers got for Drew Holiday. And I like Alex Caruso, but Drew Holiday is like at my ceiling. Alex Caruso is at my microphone level.
Yeah. But if it's like, so Jake Fisher, Yahoo reports multiple firsts, right? If it's multiple firsts and it's like, one's like a fake first that becomes second, and the other one is like the 28th pick, and you're a team that's trying to like make the finals, F it. Like, he's also on a bargain contract. Like, he's making $9 million this year and $9 million next year. That is like going to be like $4 or $5 million below the mid-level exception. Like, that's like a cap hack amid this point where you have all these different things now. Like, there's just like value in a contract that cheap, where the Bulls can like probably get that from someone if they want to. Like, I think they're gonna. It might be like one first that's like not really a first, but like he's good enough where he could like swing a play. Like, I'm not saying he's Drew Holiday. I'm not saying he's Dame, but like he could get 2 firsts and it wouldn't shock. It like would not shock me. It would not shock me. It's not going to be seconds in Rubio. I think we know that. Like, it's not going to be seconds in Dean Wade. Like, it's the Cavs don't have the ammo to go get him. It's kind of clear.
So to your point, let's just say they never get a backup point guard and Ricky Rubio never comes back. I agree with you. Like, in the event that guys are dinged up like they are currently, like, you can't not play Craig Porter Jr. because like he has earned minutes after playing well over the last few games for Cleveland. But I made this X post, tweet, whatever the heck, Mr. Facelift, and Practical Truck Designer says it is. Craig Porter Jr. just might be like a case of a guy who may not be good enough right now to play in the NBA, but he's too good to play in the G League currently. Like, you could go send him down to the Charge and let him get 30 minutes a night with Mike Garrity and the Charge and Amani Bates and Isaiah Mobley, but like, he provides you a more immediate need, and I think he does show that poise, comfort, and control where you're like, at least if I'm JB Bickerstaff, I can say, okay, I trust Craig Porter Jr. playing 15 to 20 minutes a night for us, running our offense primarily with the bench unit, not doing too much on offense, staying within himself because he knows that's what's going to get him minutes, especially because he just plays hard on defense. And like, that's the last thing, like, he plays hard on defense. Like, he gives you enough of everything that like you need just out of a backup guard that gets you 15 to 20 minute mark that softens the blow of not really having a traditional backup point guard behind Darius Garland on a nightly basis.
Let me ask you this this as the last thing. 3 two-way guys this year: Isaiah Mobley, Amani Bates, Craig Porter Jr. Who would you say if you had to pick one right now that was most likely to be on the 15-man roster opening night next year, who is it?
Ooh, next year?
Next year.
I would say both Amani Bates and Craig Porter Jr.
You can't no hedging. No hedging. Got to pick just one of them. No hedging. Got to just pick one. I would
say Craig Porter Jr. just because he has a much, much lower ceiling than Bates. I still don't quite know what Isaiah Mobley can be, but like, he's a huge upgrade over Sharif Cooper in terms of, and isn't Craig Porter Jr. over like playmaking and upside like that like there's a pretty clear path for him to getting minutes on this current iteration of the Cavs just because of what he just provides you. Despite excuse me, like being 6'1", 180, like plays bigger than what he actually is as a player. Kind of like that Ricky Rubio vibe when Rubio was healthy.
Exactly. I'm in agreement with you. All right, we're going to end there. Back at you Monday after Cavs Nuggets. Thanks again to Jake Stevens as always. Don't eat too much chicken on Sunday. It's bad for your gut to inhale that many chicken nuggets in one sitting for Cavs versus Nuggets. Unless like you're able to. And then Godspeed if you do.
You know what? Producer of the show, Jake Stevens, if he agrees to it, I'll buy the chicken McNuggets. He can film himself eating the chicken nuggets, and he can just put himself as like a little overlay video in like the lower, I don't know, it's just like the lower like top third of the screen. It's just him eating the nuggets during the episode. Like, you can speed it up to make sure it matches the pace of the episode. But if he agrees,
we need to be the cookie bar from your wedding, I think, if we're gonna have Jake just crush a bunch of food. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Peace out, Boy Scouts.